Welcome back to Life, Love, and Real Estate, your one-stop shop for all your questions you have about home buying and living in this world that we keep creating. Before I even introduce my much better pod half, I want to make sure everyone does me a huge favor. Wherever you are, at the gym, at home, driving, not driving. If you're driving, don't do this yet. But I do want you to go ahead, slam that subscribe button, make sure you hit a like, and share it with someone who would benefit from hearing us talk about all the wonderful possibilities of home ownership and how to get there. So, with that out of the way, Lacresa, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day. I'm tired, and but that doesn't matter because things have to get done. It's adulting, right? Doing things
That
even when you don't want to. So
that is
I'm
the
here.
lesson.
I'm happy. It's always great to talk to you.
There we
So,
go. There we go. Excited to talk to you. I'm old and I'm still recovering
oh,
from
39. So tough. So tough. I mean, it's counting down, man. Like it's all over after
it.
40,
It
from what
is
I've heard.
I'm
Hasn't.
excited for 40. I can't wait for 40. I'm not afraid of 40. I am embracing my 40ness
Mhm.
eventually. I'm not there yet, but I will say that celebrating my friends' send off of their bar restaurant this past weekend has taken a larger toll than it would have 15 years ago.
A little bit of mourning, huh?
Not it's sad and it's not. It's sad because I don't have a place now where I can just say, oh, I'm gonna go to this place and see at least four people I know. Or people I
Mhm.
have like real relationships with. At the same time, I've watched my friends kind of be at the whims of landlords for the last 5 years and keep threatening to sell and threatening to close. And like it was just kind of putting them in a really bad limbo of like, do we reinvest? What do we do these things? And so I'm happy for them on a very personal level. And like I said, a little bit of mourning because again, this was the place where Susan and I had our first date. We had our engagement party. And so like
Mhm.
it's a very it's a place that's gonna mean a lot to me, but it's probably safer for me that it's closed
Well, also your lifestyle has changed a lot, right? Like it's
dramatically.
great to have like a little home spot for you to go to and your own personal cheers. I have my couple places that I go that are like a cheers and I get spoiled and it's nice to go in and be taken care of and
Right.
have drinks ready for you and it's a family reunion all the time. And so that is tough, but it's a testament to them and how long they were around and they went through all of the different phases if they've been around for 18 years, right? Downturns, recessions, COVID, all of that stuff. And they came through it and supported their staff. And so that is a beautiful, wonderful thing. So good for them.
Mhm.
And to the new adventures they have. It's interesting because I saw this video. I'm obsessed with I'm on Instagram probably a little too much. But I love getting tidbits of information from people, and I follow a lot of like health and wellness, more so like mental health and wellness
Uh-huh.
than anything. And there's this gentleman that I came across, and I feel really bad because I don't know his name, but he talked about grief and how we know grief in the big terms, like when you lose a parent or you lose a child or you lose, someone in that sense, or you have to put down a pet, and that people understand that type of sadness, right? Like it's the big
Yeah.
G grief. But we are always grieving and mourning every day, right? Like there's a period that you're gonna mourn that you don't have this place to go to. It was your safe space. It was a security for you, right? You're happy for your friends, but you're
Yeah.
still mourning the loss, and you have the memories to think about and smile on at the same time. When you drive by, it's going to be like a little tear, like that was our spot, right? And we deal with grief in so many different levels on a daily basis, from um, just many different things, right? The ending of friendships, the job didn't work out the way that we thought it was, the boss that we thought was cool, but then they turned out to suck. Whatever that is, we're always constantly having to go through lower levels of grief. And so that's just something I thought that I
And
should.
it's really interesting that you say it that way because I was talking about this with someone else divorced from this topic, but it was the difficulties some people like I played sports in college. And
Mhm.
to stop playing sports is to grieve a part of yourself that
Yeah.
was yourself. You're grieving a past version of yourself. Like even I joked on Sunday, I was like, too many times I based on where I was going to be renting a place on how close is it to Tin Roof? How quick can I get to Tin Roof? And that version of me doesn't exist anymore. It's a different, like you said, it's a different person, but at the same time, like the testament of Sunday night, of seeing all these people from all these different walks of life, who felt the need to come out and say thank you and appreciate this place that we all shared together. And whether it was one night or too many nights or whatever it was, it had left an impact. And I think that was really powerful for the owners to see that and say, oh, wow, because it, it was full. It was a full place. We left at like 2 a.m. on a Sunday night and it was still full. And the band was still on stage and everyone was having a great time. And I had to take Susan back to get her car on Monday morning. And I was like, this is the last time we'll ever do this, where I've got to take you back to Tinder to get your car. And it's interesting because it is a transition and it is an evolution and growth, but at the same time, you cannot have growth without, like you said, mourning what was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, when's the last time y'all been out since 2 o'clock in the morning? Let's go with that. Right. Parents, it's been a minute. The bounce back is a little tough. And then as you get into 40, it's the bounce back takes a little bit longer. But good for y'all. I mean, number one, they got to get their flowers. And you are so into what you create, you don't always realize the impact that it has on the people around you, and you hear it every now and then, but to have that beautiful moment where people can come out and say thank you, had to be really heartwarming and sad at the same time, because they're not going to get that every day anymore. So
it was all the things. I'm excited to be talking to you today. Episode 5, very exciting. I do want to talk about, so you and I, for the first time, got to work together on a deal.
We did.
And it was very interesting to see, because I got to talk with our clients and how effusive and how impressed they were with you.
Oh, that's kind.
It was really, really sweet, because this transaction, it was a husband and wife relocating from out of state.
Yeah.
And the husband didn't see the home physically until the day of closing, I think.
Yeah. Well, so they came and visited one time, but we were already well under contract. Right. So yeah, and these wonderful people that I have known, like, we are friendly. I wouldn't say, we traveled in kind of the same circle. So I knew them. I didn't even know they had moved back to Florida, honestly, until I was talking to a mutual friend and I invited him over for dinner and he's like, I'm heading to Florida. And I was like, for what? And then I was like, oh, that's how much, like, in Atlanta, you have so many people that you know and you interact with, but you can go a year without seeing them or hearing from them, and the whole lives have changed, right? Like, I didn't know that she was in Florida. So yes, so they moved to Florida. She gets a job transfer. She gives me a call. Really wonderful, sweet, and out of the blue. At the same time, they're not here. And it's been a minute since I have had to work with out-of-state clients. Actually, it doesn't happen very often. Most people are very boots on the ground. So it was wonderful how much they trusted me. That's the biggest compliment to me for my clients, is that you trust me and you trust the process. And they were able to buy a home from a video, essentially. She came in town one time. And we went and looked at a series of homes, but it's not anything that we end up putting an offer on. It was in a completely different area than where we originally started from, the home that they ended up with. So it was a bit of, not a roller coaster ride, but definitely took some time. Actually, that's not true. I'm fine. It didn't take that much time at all. I remember, like, the conversation was, hey, our lease ends in July. We would love to have a home by then. I love that people say that and they give you a nice runway. At the same time, if you're looking at houses right now, then you want to buy a house right now. You don't care about the July deadline. That's just out there as a worst case scenario to give you time, right? Because I think also they get used to hearing that it takes months to find a home. And it doesn't take months to find a home. If your realtor is asking the right questions and knows your why and knows your true motivation and what's important to you, and they're able to scale those homes down based on your needs, you're only going to probably look at 5 to 7 homes and be under contract. And if you're not under contract in 5 to 7 homes, then someone's not asking the right questions. So yeah, there's that.
I think it's a testament to both you and them, and that you obviously asked the right questions to get to the core motivations. But they also, it felt like they came into it kind of knowing what they were looking for. They had the conversations beforehand, like on how they wanted to do it, and they figured it. Like, I was just so impressed watching them communicate with each other and watching them communicate with us, because it was never. We've both been in situations where it's like, why am I mediating this thing? Why am I trying to build some bridges here? And this was like,
smooth sailing.
They were so solid and such a good model of like, oh, this is how you communicate. This is how you set expectations, and
Mm-hmm.
you meet them, and you're able, and everyone's happy, everyone's satisfied at the end because you had those conversations, you had them prepared.
Well, here's the deal too. I would say that I'm thankful for the experience that I have, right? And the history that I've been doing this and for how long, to know how to pay attention to what you're saying and what you're not saying. Because this was a situation where, yes, absolutely, they knew kind of what they needed, right? We need a home of this size. My mother is going to be moving in with us. So we want her to have a comfortable space of her own, something where she feels independent, but still connected to us. And so when we started looking at houses, we were looking in Southwest Atlanta. And we were looking at, I call them mini McMansions. So these like 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath, 28 to 3,200 square feet. All of that is overwhelming to me as a single person. I'm like, that's a lot of space. Cool. But none of my business. But anyway, so we started out there. We were looking at new construction. We were looking at rehabs, but we were kind of sticking in that like Southwest Atlanta. And then they were like, we're not seeing anything. So we're going to go even further. They actually thought about going further south. And I don't even know that, because I'm such an Atlanta girl, I think it was like going towards like Fayetteville. And personally, I want to drive out to Fayetteville. Secondly, I know them well enough to know they really didn't want to be out in Fayetteville. They were just thinking that these are going to be large enough houses in our price point to give us the space that we need. We must have to go further south. And so from listening to them, they were making a lot of compromises, which I am thankful for, like, because it's a lot of give and take, right? You're not going to get everything you want. Well, what I realized is they were compromising themselves for their mother. And that's sweet and all. But when you live in with someone for a long period of time, those compromises are going to start hitting you in the face. Like at one point they were considering giving her mother-in-law, his mother-in-law, a whole, the primary suite, the primary layout. And they were just going to be in a secondary bedroom downstairs or whatever. And it just did not settle right with me. They were okay with doing that, but it did not make sense to me. And not that it always has to make sense to me, but my goal is to get everyone what they need, not one of you getting what you need and one of you having to sacrifice what you need. I don't think that bodes well for anyone in the long term. You can convince yourself for 6 months, for maybe a year, but after that year, you're going to be like, why did I make this decision? Do I have buyer's remorse? And sometimes it comes back on us. And selfishly, I just want to make sure that you're not regretting your decision. Turn around and blame it on me because I didn't ask the right questions, though, right? And it comes down to, are you sacrificing too much? Can we consider looking in a different area? Due to who they are, their lifestyle and everything, it did not make sense for them to go further outside the city. Although it did get her husband closer to the airport, there are many places that you can get around the city that you can still be in that slingshot of getting to the airport. So we went from Southwest to possibly Fayetteville, and they ended up in Decatur.
And it's and I think for you, it's old hat. It's what you do. It's you're good at this. I want to point out to people who are listening, you advocated for your clients against themselves. Like they were willing to say, oh, let me just take a step back on my desires. And you were like, no, let's keep you guys first and foremost, because this, not just they're your clients, but you're also showing that you had their best interests at heart. And so what I think, even that conversation solidified them as far as, I know you guys had a relationship beforehand, but like that, they put a lot of faith in you because of that. And I got calls today from someone that recommended both of us to, and it's one of those things that like people say, oh, we're buying a house. Anyone can sell you a house. Anyone can put you in a mortgage. It's about building that trust base that creates a client for life that everyone says, and everyone kind of, oh, that's what I want to do. But seeing it in action and being a part of it in action is really rewarding. I tell everyone this, that when they get in this industry, if you do your job, you're going to be financially fine because this is a machine designed to make money. However, if you want to truly help people and be fulfilled, you're working for the client, not for the commission. And I think that was something that was really, it's shown through in every interaction dealing with this transaction with you. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to tip my cap and be like, wow, that, because I worked with great agents. I worked with not so great agents. And I can know the difference. I've done this long enough to know the difference. And
Yeah.
the difference comes a month later when I start getting lead calls from people who've just closed.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it was a testament, I think, to all of us. Look, they were ready to make tough and hard decisions. It was a beautiful situation where they completely trusted each other, because just because people are married or they're in a relationship don't mean that they fully trust each other with certain decisions. Yeah, I trust you to go to get the groceries. I trust you to fill up my car. But do I trust you to pick a house for us in another state? And granted, she was familiar with this area. She's lived here before. At the same time, that's a lot of faith to put in someone. And she knew her husband's way of thinking and her way of thinking, obviously, and merging those two together. And then the beauty of it was I was able to send them some great walkthroughs of homes that made them feel like from what they were saying, that made them feel like they were actually walking through the home themselves. So that is a tip to any realtor or whoever who is looking to show an out-of-town guest a property. You don't have to wait for them to come in town. You can hop in there, but also slow down, describe what you're seeing so that they can feel what you're seeing. And it's not just a zoom in video of like, here's a bedroom, look at the kitchen, here's a whatever. Like, that doesn't really work. Like, it was each video was probably 4 minutes long. Yeah. And so I had to send it through WhatsApp because my phone ain't gonna send a 4-minute video via regular situation, right? And so, but they were getting 4 and 5 minute videos so they can truly, as if you are walking through a home. So slow down and take your time so that your clients can see the cabinets, the flooring, the finishes, the whatever their bells and whistles are. And luckily we ended up finding them a really beautiful home in Decatur where her mother's going to have a whole apartment downstairs, like living room, 2 bedrooms, bathrooms, full kitchen, but still connected to them through a stairway. And then they get to enjoy a beautiful 3-bedroom, 3-bath with 2 more fireplaces and a large kitchen and all of that stuff. And so it worked out beautifully for everyone, and no one had to sacrifice their needs, and which is going to make sure that they can stay in there long term and not outgrow that space. And that's what we want.
And that's what you get when you have a transaction where everyone trusts each other. Like you said, they trusted each other to find the home. They trusted you to secure the home, and they trusted me to help with the financing. And so it was one of those situations where communication was key. I know we say this all the time, but that's the cornerstone of life, love, and real estate. It is the ability to not just, if you're going to sit around and sublimate your own desires at every turn, that's going to flip at some point. You're going to feel resentful for it. Like, you're going to feel a certain kind of way. And so I think just being able to have these conversations, being able to have this push, that's where I talk about people who are saying, oh, I want to buy a house. I go, great. So what do you want to finance? Well, I hadn't thought about any of that. Okay. So desire is one thing. Desire is great. Desire is the spark that lights a lot of this stuff. But having a plan and having the ability to communicate that plan, that's where the rubber, as they say, meets the road. Yeah. And so I think that was really, it was just I wanted to bring it up because it was a really good demonstration of what good communication looks like, not just in a relationship that's a marriage, but in a partnership that's working towards a common goal as well.
Oh yeah. Like, I don't want to work with anyone that does not fully trust me. I'm not saying that you have to do everything I say. I can be a little bossy, but I'm here as a consultant. I'm here to help you make the best decisions possible. And a lot of times y'all don't even trust yourselves. So at least if you don't trust yourself in these big decisions, trust me. Trust the expert. You know what I mean? And I, we use the expert word named flippantly, but I've been doing this. It'll be 20 years in June. Granted, it took me a couple years to get my going, but since then, I have worked with every single type of buyer. I have worked with the lowest price points to $1 million price point and everything in between. And it's you can work with anyone, but just make sure you trust the people that you work with. Even if they don't have the same long length of experience that I have, you still have to be able to trust them and trust them throughout this process, because you're going to need them to lean on, because you are going to be questioning all of your decision making. And was this the right decision? And was this the right time? And all of those different things that come up as you start to get to what you want. And also, I'm like that with any relationship. I don't want you. Don't be my friend if you don't trust me. We're definitely not dating if you don't. Because you also, why be around people that you don't trust? That makes no sense to me.
Exactly. It's I don't know. It's one of those things that when you say it out loud, it sounds simple, but it's harder to put in practice, and I think people realize, and to be really intentional about that kind of thing and say, oh, let me evaluate like this relationship. Is this someone who I actually trust, or just someone who I enjoy being around? And there's a difference. There's a
Oh,
difference. There's a lot of overlap, but there is a difference.
Oh, there are many people. Like, I have categories of relationships, and I did not always have that, right?
Yeah.
I was that child who wanted everyone to be their friend. And my mother worked very hard to let me know. Also, my mom didn't have a lot of friends, but my mom worked very hard to let me know that not everyone is your friend, number one, and not everyone should be your friend, number two, right? Like, you need to have some discretion about who it is you are around. And so I have my holiday friends, you see them around the holiday, you give each
Yeah.
other hugs, you wish them a new year, and then I'll see you the next holiday. I have some people I celebrate birthdays with. I have some people I only send text messages going, happy birthday, and then I have people that I'm intentional about spending quality time with, whether it's dinners or walks or vacations or whatever. But there's levels to relationships. And as we get older, we start to recognize what true friendships are. And that for me, my circle has gotten smaller and smaller. And, there's some trade-ins and some trade-outs. Some people have been fired. And I have been fired from people too. Like,
Yeah.
I also am not crazy enough to recognize that I may not have always been the right friend for you at that time. And so you not speaking to me anymore could be because of something I did or something I didn't do, or that our lives are just different. But I do recognize there are some people who don't rock with me, and I get it.
That's okay.
And
Exactly.
that's okay. And then there's some people that I'm just like, yeah, you're not my cup of tea anymore. And it used to be a good time. And I think it's phases of life too.
So two different thoughts from that. So one, I was like you for a long time. I wanted to be people pleaser. I wanted everyone to love me. At
Yeah.
a certain point in my life, I got old or grown or whatever enough. And I was like, I look at my life like a dinner party.
Ooh, let's tell me
And
more.
I would love to invite everyone I can to my dinner party. But there
Mm,
are some people who are going to bring a dish or drinks or cutlery. Those are great people. They added to your party. Some people are going to show up empty handed, ready to eat. That's okay too. I
yeah.
can't expect you, I can't demand you bring something to a party that I'm throwing. But if you're going to come to my party and disrupt things, if you're going to steal, if you're going to be generally unfun person to have at the party, I'm going to uninvite you from my dinner party. You don't
Mm,
need to ruin everyone else's time because I had to have you there. And
yeah.
so for me, like that was kind of the analogy that always jumps out. But I wanted to talk about like the different phases of friends. This happened to me Sunday because even when you and I are the same way, we're grown people, we have our friends, we da da da. Because we are, and again, this goes back to this is a pro therapy podcast. Anyone wants to know that, you should know that by now. The best advice I've ever gotten in therapy was lead with your values so that other people can recognize you.
Yeah.
And so I'm me. Better or worse, you meet me anywhere, I'm pretty much going to be Daniel Palmer. I'm at the going away party. I've had more than a few beverages in me. And young lady who I know used to work at the bar, she's finishing up college now. She pulls me aside and says, and we are bar friends. We are bar friends. And she says, I know you work in mortgages and I'm terrified to buy a house.
Oh.
And we sat down and talked for like a good little carve out of 15 minutes. And we talked about kind of her concerns. We talked about why she was feeling that way. Like a lot. She's like, I'm getting started so late. I'm almost 30. I'm like, relax. Like it was one of those things that you don't know what you don't know. And she had never had the conversation with anyone. And she just felt all this pressure from all these places. And I was like, let's just talk. Like, yes. And it was funny because afterwards she's like, I saw Business Daniel, and that was weird. And I was like, yeah, man, like this is not a version of me, but this is this is what I do. Like, if you're scared, like I'm glad you're scared. That means you give a damn. So let's have a conversation about what the fear is and get to the core of it. And she's doing an application today, and we're going to go ahead and get her plan together. She graduates from college May 8th, and she didn't remember. She's like, how do you remember that? I go, I have a weird thing about dates, but also like if someone who I even give a little shit about, like if they're telling me this is coming up, I'm going to try to at least recognize or send a text or whatever. And so it was one of those things where, again, we don't have to turn on the salesperson, because who we are is genuinely desiring to help.
Mm-hmm.
It's genuine. And I think that is a big differentiator, particularly in these days where you can smell the false. Like it's going to come out. Like if you're faking it, you're going to slip. Like, I'm sorry. No one's mask is that good.
Yeah. It's interesting too that, okay, so this is a kind of a recent thing. I don't know if this happened to you or not, but so during COVID, I invested in a space and we opened up a lounge and we did it in September of COVID. So Vesper, by the way, in Glenwood Park, just as a little shout out. And so we've been open for almost 5 years. So there was a community that we created, kind of like around people didn't have anywhere to go, right?
Yeah.
And so we created this little hub for like 2 years as we were all going through the storm. And I recognized that me, I love to have a conversation. I love to have a deep conversation. Therapy is going to come up in some way, shape, or form, something I've learned, something you've learned. That's the kind of conversations I like to have with people. What I recognized is that how some people were during COVID, and tell me if you get this or not, how some people were during COVID is not how they generally are in normal day life. So if COVID had never happened and I met you, then I would have seen a different side of you meeting you during COVID. Because in my simplistic philosophy, I found that it stirred a fight or flight kind of mode with everyone, right? Like some people got a little bit more introspective because the world was shutting down. Like we literally saw the world shutting down, the ticker tape of people dying every day. And that was just really devastating. And it was just such a heavy time and such an unknown what was going on. So some of those people got very introspective and started kind of leaning in and creating like deeper relationships where you were having like real deep conversations. And then some people were just like, I got to keep it surface because at any moment I could break, right? There's so much stuff going on that I'm just going to be that fighter. I'm just going to be this tough shell. No one can get in because this is such a scary time. So all that to say, I had some friendships that I thought were more deeper connected than what they actually were. And I realized when I stepped back that I just saw them in a very unique period of time that allowed something different to come out of them that they would not normally have happened if the world hadn't shut down. And then now that you're back to your normal, whatever that is, And so I'm over here confused, like, where'd that person go? Right. Like we have these like deep conversations and check in on each other and do all these different things and pray for each other and all of that stuff. And now everything is just kind of surface and
back to it. It's back to where we were.
Like, I am always going through this because I take people as who they are. So when I meet you, no matter, I don't know what the hell's going on in your life. I just know like this is who shows up to me and that's who I think you are. What I had to learn is that depending on what people are going through or what life is throwing at them, different parts of them will show up that may not show up another time and then get hidden again. Have you experienced that?
It's less with COVID. The year before COVID, one of my best friends passed away. And we all went to Michigan for the funeral. And I watched how it changed all of us. And then I watched how some of those changes rolled back.
Yeah.
And it was interesting for me because I'm like you. I try to be consistently myself, but I also don't try to lie to myself about things that are actually bothering me. And so I try to be somewhat of an open book because like, who's got time for mystery? Like, this is ridiculous. We're only getting so many years on this earth. Like being fake, being someone else sounds exhausting. And so I'm very on, and I had to recognize and give the grace in understanding that because something affected me a certain way and because I could not mentally roll back to the earlier version of myself does not mean that they can't, won't, or aren't allowed to. And so the example this is the example I use, because when Matt passed, he was a mucky muck at Citigroup. He'd been working there for years. Very important person. He ran what they called the desk, the international money desk. The CEO from Citigroup was at the funeral. All the people he worked with were there. And they replaced him then 2 days after he passed.
Yeah.
And for me, that was an indelible shock. That was a transformative moment for me. No matter what I pour into this other thing, this job, it does not love you back.
It's a job.
It's a job. And it cannot be. Daniel Palmer, when I shuffle loose this mortal coil, there will be no speeches about how I did my job.
No.
They will talk about me as a man, hopefully as a father, but hopefully not as a son. I hope I don't predate my parents. Hopefully not as a son. But they will discuss me in terms that are not spreadsheets, that are not capture rates, that are not loan volume.
Yeah.
They will discuss me in different manners. And for me, I've never shaken that since. I can't shake that. I can't shake that I'm part of something bigger than punching a clock or paying a bill. I also have the privilege, and I recognize that, to not be in a place where punching a clock and paying a bill is the difference between keeping my lights on or not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I get that. It's we're all replaceable. And when you are part of someone's bottom line, they still got to cover their bottom line, and the work still has to get done.
Exactly.
And it's not even death. It's people getting cancer, right? People going out on maternity leave. Like, the work still has to get done, regardless of what's going on with you, which always made me realize. Also, I've dealt with a lot of death in my life, by the way.
Yeah.
So from the time I was probably 10 or 11, I've been going to funerals, and I come from a very large family. So with coming from large family comes a lot of death.
Yeah.
And so I have experienced from family members, friendships, best friends, 2 best friends actually have passed. And you realize that work is just work, and it doesn't matter. And I am probably a little jaded, but it doesn't matter what the work is. It doesn't matter that if it was your life's purpose and all of that, it's still at some point work, right? And you have to decide, what's really important to you. And I'm a big believer that you can make money in all kinds of ways, So if it's about making money, then just figure out how to make some money in a different type of way if you have the ability to and the access to and all of those things. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, life changes in an instant. And how people recover from grief is all different. Some people will decide to live their life to the fullest. I always remind myself, I don't know if you've ever watched those videos, not end of life videos, but it's people who work in hospice care, like nurses and techs and things. And they give you stories about people's last moments and what they're talking about. And none of it is ever, I didn't work hard enough, or I didn't show up and I didn't file that last whatever. It's never that. It's, I didn't live my life to the fullest. I didn't speak up and give my opinion. I didn't see my friends or my family. I didn't travel. I didn't do this. It's the experiences of life that people miss in the end, not work. Work is just
and it's the thing that's valuable at the end is the people.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough. Susan, I love my wife. When we met, she told me how we talked. One of the big uniting factors of us talking was like we loved our parents so much. We talked about our parents. Our first conversation was about our dads. But her mother, when she was growing up, would bring people in hospice care into their home.
Oh, wow.
And like she's that person in her community. And so for someone to have that large of a heart, and for me to later on go through this thing with Matt, it was one of those things where like, oh, this all, like you said, it all happens for a reason. These people are in your life for a reason. Yeah. And she and I have had a conversation. It was like, I obviously, like I didn't become a monk or like move. I didn't stop doing my job or anything, but it did reframe and refocus and recontextualize kind of not just how I view the world, but how I know other people do. Like every time I talk to my dad, I know he's going to watch this. What's up, Pops? How's
Hi.
business? And I kind of shuffle past the question because I'm like, I don't talk about anything but it. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the kid. Let's talk about the house. Let's talk about sports. Let's talk about, because this is one part of me. It's one piece of me. And what's funny is I was talking to an agent in the office, young black guy, played college football like I did. And we're at lunch and he was like, well, they want me to do X, Y, or Z, or they want me to do this one thing super. And I'm like, you have trouble letting yourself be one thing because you've been told your whole life, oh, you're an athlete. That's all you are. And so there's almost that subconscious like, oh no, this is the fullness of my person. And the desire to be seen in that full light, I think that is what you were able to speak to on the client level. I think that's why you and I are good at our jobs, is because it's not fake. We're not pretending. Like, yes, we're doing our jobs, but it's never from a disingenuous place. It comes from a place of, let me understand so that I can help you better.
Yeah.
And I think that at its core in all service industries is what's super important, is that genuine, even if you're not going to connect with everyone, but the genuine desire for connection is what builds that bridge.
I love that. Yeah, no, absolutely. Everything starts with connection, right? Like, I gotta know you to like you to trust you.
Exactly.
And I gotta like you. And I am not one of those people. I don't do well with working with people I don't like. And I have never mastered that. So just so you know, like, I have tried. And one of the things that Marilyn's always told me, Marilyn's my mama. Only thing that Marilyn's always told me is respect the position, even if you don't respect the person. And that has gotten me through a lot of situations, a lot of work situations, and a lot of life situations, right? Because people suck a lot of times. And sometimes you're just like, how the hell did you get into this position when you suck so hard? Like, you are a horrible person, right? But at the same time, they were smart enough to get into the position. And so that's what yeah, I had to learn that. And also, like, I just don't want to work with people that I don't like. And you shouldn't want to work with me if you don't like me. If you don't like sarcasm, if you don't like straightforward, direct conversations, if you don't like me asking a lot of questions to try to understand you, and then I'm staring at you a little bit to try to pay attention to your demeanor, then we're probably not going to work very well together.
Let's say someone listening or watching this is someone who loves a lot of questions, who wants to be understood, and who wants to find a home in the Atlanta area. Tell them how they can find you, Lacresa.
You can Google me on the Google machine. So Lacresa Morrow, I'm with KW in town. LAC Sales ATL is my Instagram. Yeah, you can just type my name in.
He's huge on TikTok, guys.
Internet.
He's huge on TikTok.
Yeah, no, Annie is huge on TikTok. The producer is huge on TikTok. So you can see videos of me on Annie's TikTok. So yes, that is growing very well. So thank you all for your support. But most importantly, just find someone that you can trust. I mean, yeah, obviously we trust each other, but if it's not us, at the end of the day, find someone that you can trust to help you make these big decisions, because you're going to need to lean on someone that you can fully trust throughout this process.
Amen to that. DanielPalmerMortgages.com. Daniel Palmer Mortgages on Instagram and all of the other assorted social media devices. But yeah, thanks for guys for listening. And we'll be back again in 2 more weeks with another edition of Life, Love, and Real Estate. Have a great day.
Send it to your friends. Tell everyone. Bye.
Tell everyone.